Welcome back everyone, it's Baz again with another video from World of Warships Legends. And this time we're playing airstrike mode. We are in the Langley, the tier 3 American carrier. In this video we're hoping that we can provide you with a few tips and tricks for playing carriers, especially if you're having a little bit of trouble. We'll hopefully point out these tips as we go along, and of course if you have any tips for me, please leave them down in the comments below. I always like hearing things that I didn't know before. There's also a bonus clip at the end of this video of me ramming a carrier in my Texas. So you're definitely going to want to stick around for that. The slowest ram in history. Now at the beginning you may have noticed in our shipping forecast we only had 2 human players per side. And 2 of those were the carrier commanders. Now I don't know about you, but I've noticed this has been happening quite often. It was really only on the first day and very sparingly after that I've seen more than even 4 people per side. The 2 carriers in each match have always been controlled by players, as they're probably going for their torp and bomb hit missions. But other than that, it's just a bunch of suicidal AI. You know, on the first day of the test event, I saw a lot of people streaming and posting videos on the carriers, but then after that, that was it. After everyone had their first taste of these carriers on the first day, they've been working on these Siegfried missions. Wargaming kind of dropped the ball there by piling all these missions on us, but making it so that you had to do them in multiple different game modes. And I won't even get into that this video, that's going to be for a whole nother day. So let's get back on track here. We've already launched our first set of planes, and we just started flying towards the Alpha objective there, where some of our friendly ships have headed towards. And we've chosen our first target here. It happens to be a cruiser. Now we made sure to line up a full ship length ahead of him because we know he's going a little bit faster than, say, a battleship. Once we had clicked the trigger button to go into our dive, we waited until the reticle turned green, and it wasn't until that green part of the reticle was at its narrowest point is when we clicked it again to launch our torpedoes. And with that we had 2 torp hits, netting us a whopping 6,050 damage. And after that initial dive, we did have to circle around a bit to line up our next target. You do have to give yourself quite a bit of space to line up your targets before you go into a dive. And here's another tip for you. On that second dive you saw I went towards that battleship on a bit of an angle, and then at the last second I turned towards his bow. I especially like to do that against human players because it causes a little bit of confusion and it makes them unsure of which way to turn away from your torps. And that net us 2 more torp hits. And right before those 2 torp hits, one of my planes got shot down. So rather than go for a third dive with only 1 plane, I clicked the return the carrier button so I could just launch a new set of 6 planes. And we switched to the HE bombers for I don't know what reason, just because. And we did put our ship in full speed ahead mode, because we've noticed that half the ships in the game have already suicided. So the one good thing about playing against AI is that the matches are quick. And since now we're really far away from the nearest enemy ship, we've got to bring the fight to them. Now with the HE bombers, you want to wait until the white reticle is right above the ship you want to target. That's when you click the right trigger. Once your planes go down for the dive, the reticle will turn green, and you'll want to wait until that green reticle is over the bow of the ship. That way when the bombs actually drop, they'll hit the ship somewhere in the middle. Now I don't know how we missed our first drop there, that was some bull diddly. But on our second drop there, we do get 1 hit. That's one thing that I've definitely noticed, is that the HE bombs are extremely inaccurate. Maybe that's due to the lower tier the carriers and the planes, but it's definitely annoying when you get a shot that looks really good and you get no results. Now for our third bomb drop, again we wanted to wait until that white reticle was ahead of the ship we wanted to bomb. This was a tougher shot because we're in the trailing position, so we made sure that the reticle was well ahead of the ship. And lucky us, we got 2 hits on that one. So back at the carrier, it's still chugging along there, going a whopping 15 knots. And we swap back to the torpedo bombers for our next run. Now, one other tip I give for new carrier players is not to worry about the positioning of your carrier. At the start of the game, just launch your planes. Don't worry about positioning your carrier closer to an island, and definitely don't back it up. Backing it up just puts it further out of the fight, and it takes longer for your planes to get to the closest target. Now here we are again, going after this enemy Ganget, and we do come at him at an angle. And when you are launching torps against battleships, you want to aim about a half ship length in front of them. And there we go, we get 2 more torp hits on them. And after that, our remaining 4 planes have a couple more targets. We take the one that's more broadside to us, and that's another slow-moving battleship. So again, we just want to lead the indicator right in front of his bow there, and wait until that green part of the indicator is at its narrowest. And there we go, we get 2 more torp hits. Now when you do come up from your torpedo run, one thing I recommend is not to turn right away, because as you see here, I turned too soon, and we're not able to take a second run at him. One of our planes has taken some fire there, and we're unable to dodge that flat cloud, so our other plane took some fire. Now we lost a plane, so we only have 1 plane left to do this torping run, and we probably went down maybe a little too soon. But we wanted to make sure we got that torpedo off before our plane went down. And even though that battleship was at an angle, we earn ourselves another torp hit. That brings our number of torp hits up to 9, and our damage is over 33,000. And we launch our next set of planes, and you'll notice how close we are to the action already. That was because we had put our carrier in full speed ahead mode and gotten ourselves closer to the action, so you see how that's beneficial. And we get 2 more torp hits, one of them causing an incapacitation, so he's a sitting duck, but I turn around too soon. I'm glad I'm able to watch this back, so I'll be sure to take my own advice in the future and make wider U-turns when going back for another dive. Another mistake I made was that I turned towards the rear of the ship, which would put me in a trailing position. When coming back around, you want to turn the same direction the enemy ship is heading, so you can get ahead of them, which will allow you to drop your torps or bombs ahead of them, which will make things a lot easier on you. Because he was incapacitated, I didn't need to lead my torps quite as far this time. And after those next 2 torp hits, I circle around the correct way this time by waiting a few seconds before making my U-turn and turning in the same direction the enemy ship is traveling. I'm able to take a better line towards him. And I better hurry up now because my carrier is right on screen in front of this battleship, and we're taking incoming fire. Now that was pretty cool right there to see us get our first kill from our carrier's point of view. But there's no time to admire our handiwork as we're still in the fire here. We're broadside to another battleship, so we need to crank the wheel away from him here. Credit to our friendly destroyer who tried to lay some smoke for us, and is now chasing off the enemy battleship by firing his guns at him. Believe it or not, this enemy battleship is the only human player on the enemy team other than the carrier commander. He must be fairly new at the game though, because if he were experienced, he may have laid waste to me while I was full broadside to him. So I'm just turning my carrier directly away from him to give him the smallest target possible. I don't really know how well carriers can bounce shells if they're angled, so I just want to give him the smallest target possible right now. This is probably the part of using carriers that I find the most fun. When your carrier is under fire and you need to send out planes to fend off your attackers, really forces you to clutch up. There was one time where 2 AI were right in front of me, a cruiser and a destroyer, and I was able to kill them both. The only time I've probably ever gotten a torp hit on a destroyer. This battleship is in reverse, being chased away by a friendly destroyer. So we're easily able to drop a torp on him and take him out. Now back at our carrier, we're not sure where the enemy carrier is, so we're gonna turn around and head to the direction that we think he is in, because we still have 5 minutes left in this game. We don't want to spend 5 minutes chasing this carrier around all the way to the edge of the back of the map. So we're going to turn our carrier around so that when we do find the enemy carrier, we'll be able to send more squads his direction.
Our victory is in sight.
Now while we're searching for this carrier, let's talk about this match. I chose it for multiple reasons. I had other games where I did higher damage, but in this game I felt like I was pretty accurate. I did get 15 torp hits and 5 bomb hits in the end, which I thought was pretty good. I have had a game where I've gotten 12 torp hits and 10 bomb hits. And I also had a game where the damage was high because I got a fire or flooding and the enemy didn't damage con it. But the main reason I chose this game was because it was one of the few games that didn't go the full 15 minutes, as most games in this test event all go the same way. They all end with the carrier on one team being the last alive and undetected, so you have to spend the last 5 minutes or so searching for him at the edge of the back of the map, and that's really boring to watch. Now, right about now, you've probably figured out that I was playing this game on stream because I'm not paying attention to the game. The enemy carrier has popped up on the minimap, and we're just flying right by him. I think I was typing something into the chat or something, I'm not really sure. You can go back and have a look at that stream if you want. I did play quite a few carrier games, and a lot of the games I talked about were on there. Now when you're going in for bomb drops, take a look at the reticle there. There's a vertical line and a horizontal line that intersect. Right in the middle there is where your bombs are going to hit. Now when you go in for your dive, you wait until the reticle turns green, and you want to slow your planes down and wait until the last possible second to shrink that green indicator as much as possible. The smaller it is, the better your dispersion will be with your bomb drops. Now for that one there, we were pretty lucky. We went into our dive too soon, so I had to maintain my speed so my indicator didn't shrink. But luckily, the carrier is a massive target, and we were able to hit him with those 2 bombs. But then you saw right after, the carrier's catapult fighter totally ripped us apart, destroyed the rest of our 4 planes like they were nothing. So my next tip is to definitely be wary of catapult fighters on ships with good AA. You'll usually only get 1 attempt at hitting them while the rest of your squad gets shot down. So save those targets for last, and make your shots against them count. We sent our final squadron away there, but I don't think we're going to have enough time to get our last torps off against that carrier. That's too bad, that would have been a cherry on top of the cake. And we end that game with 54,000 damage, 2 sinkings, 15 torp hits, and 5 bomb hits. Now out of those 15 torp hits, only 1 of them caused flooding. I don't know if that's an indicator of the tier being only tier 3 torpedoes on these planes, but we'll have to see next week with the tier 5 ships if that improves. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. It wasn't really a how-to guide, it assumed that you already knew how to play carriers. But I do hope those tips improve your carrier play. If you're having trouble with the accuracy of your torps and your bombs, I think the most important tip out of all of those is to control the speed of your planes. Slow them down as you go into your dive, and while you're in your dive, try not to speed up. Maintain your speed or slow down even more to shrink down those indicators when they're green and improve your accuracy. I'd like to hear what you think about this carrier event. Let me know in the comments down below. Haha, that ram was funny. If you did like that video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more of my videos, hit the subscribe button. And as always, stay healthy and do what makes you happy.